Pierre Gasly is finally at the exit doors of AlphaTauri, and now it seems like the Frenchman is ready to compete for wins and podiums. Finally, after what he went through with the Italian team the previous season. Although Gasly won the first race of his career with this team, it's obvious that he struggled a lot for pace in the 2022 season, meaning that he is ready for the next challenge. Nonetheless, Gasly didn't leave anything to chance, taking deeper jabs at AlphaTauri and the Italian team's miserable season. Gasly joined AlphaTauri, previously known as Toro Rosso, in 2017, and ever since then, it has been evident that the sister company of Red Bull has obtained talent that is ready to compete for wins and championships. That is why, 2 years later, when Ricciardo left for Renault, Gasly was the heir to the seat and was doomed for success. Yet, the Frenchman showed none of his potential for this team, meaning that there was something wrong, whether it was with the fear of performing or with Gasly knowing that Verstappen is his teammate, so the pressure is mounted even more. After only 13 races, or the first half of the season, the Austrian team decided that enough was enough, and with Verstappen overlapping Gasly in Budapest, the team decided to cut ties with Gasly and bring him back to Toro Rosso. From that point on, Gasly has performed amazingly well, winning his first race in 2020 in Monza and scoring a couple of podiums for the rebranded team. In fact, he was the driving force behind the team's P6 and P7 finishes in 2020 and 2021, respectively. And with strong seasons like this, it was very interesting to see how Gasly's season unfolded in 2022. Rest assured that we were shocked when we saw Gasly exiting Q1 frequently and not even being able to fight for points. Gasly had the same feeling, as he couldn't find his groove on the Italian team, despite being so competitive the previous 2 seasons. Now that this has been over with, it's evident that Gasly was going to look for a team that was going to provide him with a more competitive car, and with Red Bull's continuing its ties with Perez, it was certain that Gasly would have abandoned the nest of the Italian team and go pursue his success somewhere else. After all, it was suitable for a driver of his caliber to do this, now that we've seen that AlphaTauri and Red Bull are clearly not the right fit for the Frenchman. But what did Gasly have to say about the 2022 season with AlphaTauri, which was definitely one of the hardest he had to endure in his 6-year stint with the Italian team? When talking about it, Gasly added, "From my side, what I can feel, it's more the fact of working and trying to maximize a car which didn't have the same potential as 2021. It's not easy. Also trying to keep the motivation in the engineering room, with the guys trying to keep the focus of everyone to minimize the mistakes. Because at the end, even if you do the same sport and the same season, the dynamic is quite different, especially last year was amazing for everyone, and we had the most successful year. There was quite a lot of expectations from this year, and it's fair to say that we've been quite far from what we had expected or what we had wished for. The fact that Gasly went podiumless for the second time in his F1 career speaks volumes for itself, and it's even more painful given the fact that he was so competitive in the previous 2 seasons. Still, that is something that we cannot change, and neither can Gasly, so what's left now for the Frenchman is to go and make a name for himself in Alpine. But it seems like the Frenchman isn't done taking jabs at AlphaTauri, and when asked whether this was the hardest season that he had to endure with the Italian team, he added, "In a way, probably yes, considering that I have more experience and I have experienced good and less good times, more or less success with the team. This year with the change of regulations, unfortunately we didn't manage to capitalize on this opportunity. There were for sure some difficulties from it, but I think some other teams, in fairness, did a better job than we did. We didn't really get our opportunities from this change." Well, one could definitely note that Gasly isn't happy with how the season unfolded, and to say that it was purely his fault is an understatement and an ignorant position as well. Gasly has been nothing but phenomenal in AlphaTauri, and if you compare him to his new teammate, Esteban Ocon, you'll notice that they have exactly the same stats, and Gasly has driven for an underperforming team for his entire career. Which brings us to the next question. How will Gasly find his way in Alpine? The competition will be tough, not because of speed, but because of Ocon's atrocity and fierceness whenever he was slower than teammate Alonso. But unlike Alonso, Ocon should not expect Gasly to back down from every duel, because, unlike the two-time world champion, Gasly has a lot to prove to the world, and he will not let anyone stand in his way. That is something that he firmly believes, and that is something that will definitely happen as we enter the 2023 season. But Alpine is taking all kinds of precautionary measures in order to prevent things from escalating. For example, there were reports about Alpine banning both Ocon and Gasly's families from attending the same racing weekend, just because the relationship between both of them hasn't been at the highest level possible. And if you think about it, this is a smart move, and until the conflict between the two drivers calms down, Alpine should be careful and avoid being a drama llama team on the grid. Now that the team has accomplished its dream of having an all-French lineup, they won't let anything stand in their way, and they will definitely take all kinds of measures to prevent Gasly and Ocon from scuffling in the future. This is something that was spoken about by Rossi, the CEO of Alpine, who believes that both of the drivers are mature enough to put their kids' things in the past and focus on the big picture. When talking about this matter, Rossi said, "If any problems come up, they will be the losers because everyone expects that, and many think they are big kids. There they can show that they have transformed into mature leaders. At the end of the contract, they will approach 30. They must mess up because it is dangerous to find yourself pushed out of a team because you haven't shown sufficient maturity." Both are aware of this, and they have affirmed it to me individually and together. Obviously, the tension is going to be higher than anticipated, and with Gasly and Ocon pairing up for an all-French team, the expectations are also going to be through the roof. Ocon believes that Gasly will need a bit of time to accommodate himself to the new environment. But on the other hand, Gasly believes that everything will go smoothly and he and Esteban can propel the team back to where it belongs, which is on the podium. Gasly doesn't have a lot of praise for Ocon, especially given the fact that both of them were best buddies once. But now that they have both achieved their dreams to drive for Formula One, it would be silly to let go of these dreams and ruin them just because they have some conflicts in their karting days. The former Alpha Tauri driver spoke about what is expected from the relationship between him and Ocon, further adding, "Esteban is the guy that I've known in the paddock for the longest. We met at 6 years old, 20 years ago, and have a long past history. I will say he's done quite a lot since we both made the F1, achieved one of our dreams, got our opportunities here in the paddock, and we both want to win and fight for championships." With that being said, a very interesting period lies ahead of us, and we have yet to see whether these two drivers will find their way through the challenge together, or whether the drama will start from race 1. That was the case last year when Ocon and Alonso fought fiercely in Jeddah, when Ocon was clearly the slower driver but refused to give up without a fight. Similar things happened in Budapest, and now time will tell whether these scuffs are going to happen between him and Gasly. What do you think will happen between these two drivers from 2023 onward? Let us know in the comments below.